A little childhood trauma built character.
So I didn't realize Ed, Edd and Eddy was so beloved. Like, I knew it was liked, but I didn't think it was like up to par with like Adventure Time or regular show. But honestly, every time I put out a video regarding Ed, Edd and Eddy, it seems to blow up. So I'm going to ride off of this. The show revolves around 3 pre-adolescent boys known as the Eds, Ed, Edd and Eddy, and they hang out around this fictional suburban neighborhood of Peach Creek. They come up with scams and con their peers for cash so they can buy themselves jawbreakers, but essentially it's more of a backyardigan situation where these 3 boys are turning this average land into whatever they want. And it's very inspirational, it's very imaginative, and hilarious, to say the least. Their plans always, I would say, normally fail, but always seems more accurate. Like, even if it does go well, it seems like they still fail somehow. The characters almost never leave the neighborhood, and the adults are never even seen in this show, except Eddy's brother in the final episode. If you guys want to see more on that, I put it up the other day. So it started in January 4th, 1999, first. Originally there was 4 seasons, but Cartoon Network ordered 2 more seasons of Ed, Edd and Eddy, and it ended up being 6. They had 3 holiday specials, and it's just really fun. The creators said each episode is supposed to read like a child's day and be a nod to the cartoons of the 40s to the 70s, which you could tell in some of its wacky animations. Another aspect of the show's style is the boiling line effect, in which characters and moving objects in the foreground of the frame appear to shimmer at their outlines. This is created by tracing the same drawing 3 times, creating a shimmering effect that Antonucci says brings the characters to life. It almost makes them moving people. He also stated that he opted for a unique boiling line effect in order for Ed, Edd and Eddy to stand out from other shows on the network, and it is what makes it work. Today I want to cover something that I haven't seen on YouTube, and it is the scams. Yeah, I want to go over every scam that takes place in the first season of Ed, Edd and Eddy. So if you guys are fans of the show, you're going to have a treat. And if you're not, you're going to see how bad these characters treat Peach Creek. They usually get their comeuppance, which is always funny, and they never learn their lesson, really. The first season is 13 episodes, but it's really 26 segments, and once you start diving into treat Peach Creek. Let's get something straight first. The definition of a scam is a dishonest scheme, a fraud. I kind of want to count every time the Eds lied as well in their endeavors. So even if they're not trying to make money off of it, I think if they're trying to pull off a specific stunt that fails and they lied about it, I count it. Okay, so for the pilot we have the Ed-Touchables. Ed's obsession with labeling everything is interrupted by relentless doorbell pranks. He's soaked and fish-slapped by the time Eddy finally reveals himself.
What took you so long?
Oh, hello, Eddy.
Adding chaos by switching the Ed's labels for fun. Ed realizes his magnifying glass is missing.
So violated.
Maybe you misplaced it.
Never!
Which sets off his melodramatic search. Eddy seizes this chance to be a hero detective and proclaims a serial toucher is behind the missing items.
Beware of the toucher! Serial toucher on the loose!
If cops could handle quote-unquote serial touchers, I think the entertainment industry would be a lot better off anyway. He recruits Ed, who brings his horror movie intensity to their stakeout. When Johnny and Plank set off their trap, the Eds chase them around the neighborhood in a cartoonish scramble. After interrogating Plank and torturing Johnny, he confesses to needing to go to the bathroom, and Ed soon finds the magnifying glass was on him all along. The Eds draw earrings snocked from their hands, and they spend the end of the day in a wild chase for jawbreakers that they can't reach, thanks to Sarah and Jimmy's well-timed sabotage. So scam fail number 1, the serial toucher. This is a funny pilot because it sets up the dynamic that the 3 Eds share, like Ed's movie-obsessed personality, the neurotic Double D, who's really OCD, and then Eddy the scammer, who takes advantage of every situation to look a little bit better. The episode ends with a line that I think really sums up the entire series, especially as we move forward.
A little childhood trauma built character.
And I don't know, it just feels like that is exactly what the theme of this series is, and as long as they stick to that, that's kind of what keeps Ed, Edd and Eddy grounded. Episode 2, Nagged to Ed. So Double D's attempt to guide his friends on a bug hunt goes awry as they hear creepy chanting and find a massive spider web. Ed bounces on the web like a trampoline while Ed protests. When the chanting grows louder, they flee, only to find 3 eerie pairs of eyes staring at them. Have you guys ever woken up in the middle of the night and had this issue? Yeah, me neither. The Eds awaken in the Cankers trailer. The sisters, Marie, Lee, and May, introduce themselves with an uncomfortable affection, knowing the details about these Eds and what makes them squirm, which they kind of give me Rowdy Rough Boy vibes, where they're the exact antithesis of the 3 main characters. But it kind of makes sense, especially since we're kind of stepping in the mind of, I don't know, like 12 or 13-year-olds and their perception of girls at this time. Yeah, I don't know, the universe is still new to me. The boys try to leave, but the Cankers insist on feeding them unappetizing food and later make them do chores, with each Ed fumbling hilariously as they fail to clean. Oh my god, they're essentially kidnapped and forced to do chores. This is crazy. Fed up, Eddy finally snaps at Lee, offending the Cankers, who retreat upstairs in a tears. Just as the Eds attempt to escape, the Cankers return with creepy handmade dolls of each Ed. Oh my god, this is the 2nd episode, guys. Calm down. Petrified, the Eds bolt, and the Cankers sigh dreamily, all laughing evilly. And that's where the episode ends. See, if this was real life, you definitely couldn't just have kids kidnapping other kids, but I think since it's the perception, middle school, elementary school rivalry, like it makes it normal, so we're just gonna excuse it for this universe. No scams this one, rip. Now let's do Pop Goes the Ed.
So in Pop Goes the Eds are attacking a beehive for some reason. Guys, this is not a smart idea. They attack it with baseball bats and it essentially does nothing for the plot.
But I count this as like a failure of a scam, so
whatever, I guess they just had to fill time. So there's a sweltering heat in Peach Creek, and the Eds really don't want to be in the sun. They hop to every shady spot, but the shadows comically keep leaving. Very relatable, especially if you're living in a suburb. They even turn themselves into an ice cube to somehow escape it. Kevin comes by showing off, basically talking about this pool party he's gonna have for the whole town except for the Eds, which is kind of bullying. Eddy uses it as a chance to score social points, he says, which is really funny. And basically they just invite themselves, even though they're told not to come. In order to be like super well liked, Eddy breaks out these really skimpy bathing suits for all the boys to wear.
Pinch yourself, boys. Swimsuits of the gods. Well, okay, they're my brothers.
My.
Thinking that it's like a really cool move, despite the fact that these bathing suits are super tight and uncomfortable. They show up at the party expecting to be well received and fitting in immediately, but all the kids are really unhappy. They even kind of mock them publicly. Naz comes in saying, "Have fun," and we get to see kind of how she woos all the boys. Double D starts talking about contamination at the party, and it's clear that all the Eds are not socially capable of being here. When everybody starts to party and dance, it's extremely clear that the boys aren't welcome. So they're dealing with this extreme heat, trying to fit in at the same time. Unfortunately, the bathing suits that Eddy got the boys end up coming off while the Eds are in the baby pool. In order to not mess their social points up, they try to stay in the pool and make it look normal, but end up having to be in that pool throughout the entire night, even when it gets cold out. So we start the episode super hot and then stuck freezing at night. And that's the end of the episode. I'm not really sure if it's about them getting their comeuppance. I feel like the creators were trying to establish what the Eds were like in social settings because, you know, some of the kids, but this is really our first glance at like why they don't fit in. It's got a lot of really funny moments.
I brought a key. Don't worry, Jimmy. I like quiche.
Although the animation is a little bit hard for me to keep track of, and seeing their bare butts, like, guys, I don't need to see this in a Cartoon Network show. Eddy's charisma is super admirable, especially in this setting, because we feel a little bit worse for them. Like, they're not these con artists, like, they're not the bullies, the other kids are. But yeah, overall, definitely a good establishing episode. Now we have Over Your Ed. So we get a little glimpse into the hygiene of Peach Creek, which didn't seem necessary at first, but this show seems a lot more slice of life, so I'm getting on board now. We see how squeaky clean Double D likes to be, how Eddy bathes himself, and it's a really funny contrast when we actually see Ed's room. Ed's room is disgusting, the toilet has gunk coming out of it, and even his mirror is all fogged up. It's not really that big of a deal until you see when they're actually starting to have an energy drink stand, as they funnily call it Ed No Drink, or Ed No Dree. oh my god, it's so hard for me. Ed-Nerdery and Ed-Nerdery and Ed-Nerdery. God, whatever. It's a really clever way to say energy drink, and Ed's hygiene goes too far. It actually starts to contaminate the drink, and Double D drinks it and pretty much passes out, which I would too. I mean, this guy seems like a very overly germophobic person, but I definitely agree with Ed on this one. It's not healthy at a certain point, and even Eddy thinks it's going a little too far. Double D suggests to do a complete image makeover, and Eddy for some reason is super excited about this.
Is sitting naked in a wagon cool?
No, skunk pits, it isn't.
They create their own man-made car wash, which is really creative. I think this show really inspired a lot of my creativity as a kid, and push Ed in a wagon through it. The boys help clean Ed like a car until he's all nice and clean. He even has hair, apparently. They pick out a new wardrobe, and he's looking suave. I'm not sure if this is 90s suave or 80s or 60s suave, but he's looking suave. They start to assign him catchphrases to make him seem cool, which I don't know who told them that that's what makes you cool, but it's funny watching Ed and his ridiculous array of phrases. Like, listen to some of these.
Swiggity swag, what's in the bag?
Come play with us, Ed.
Sounds like a plan, little man.
They test out his new style by throwing him at all the kids in the cul-de-sac. He somehow charms everybody one at a time, from Jimmy to Ralph to Naz, and then everybody is super excited except for Kevin, of course, because he's the go-to popular guy. But in the end, he actually wins over everyone. And Eddy somehow turns it into a scheme. Oh my god, Eddy would be such a good TikTok influencer. Like, he really knows how to work the money. They capitalize on his coolness and start a stand-up comedy show where he collects money, and this is one of the few times that we actually get to see the Eds have a successful scam. All fun comes to an end, though, when the Cankers sisters pretty much crash the party, show up, and disrobe Ed. Like, for some reason, I guess they see him a lot deeper than the rest, so they just feel the need to come in and take over for them. It's so interesting to see the Cankers sisters and the cul-de-sac kids all in the same room, because it's like they're not necessarily from the same universe, which is kind of weird in a way. I don't see a lot of them interacting. And in the end, they assert their dominance, take all the money, and the scam is officially foiled. I'm definitely giving a point to this, though, because they were successful. Even though they didn't keep the money, everything was a success up until that point. They pretty much learn at the end of the day that Ed is never going to change, even though he puts on like this cool clothes. It's just always gonna be him. And that's a fun moral. This episode's really good at showing the socialization between all the kids. Like, we definitely get a better vibe of what's going on in Peach Creek. But other than that, it just feels like not a big plot. It's just them going through the motions again. We end on one last cheesy catchphrase, and the episode is final. Then we have Sir Ed-a-Lot. For no particular reason, Double D and Eddy team up and go to visit Ed, and it's disgusting. His entire room is gross, and he's playing with Sarah. This poor guy. He's essentially the pawn of Sarah while Jimmy's not around. And when Eddy just thinks that they could just take Ed back, Sarah basically comes in to assert her dominance.
Tell your stupid friends it's my way or the highway.
And pretends to not breathe, so that way Ed would freak out and she would have to continue playing with her. It's so funny the way Sarah just holds her breath. Like, this is such a baller move to like get somebody to stay and hang out with you. Imagine one of your friends was like, I don't want you to go, but instead of saying it, they just end up trying to not breathe until you say something. I mean, that's a little toxic to me. Then when Jimmy actually shows up, it turns out it's not over yet. Sarah wants to keep using her brother Ed as a pawn. Eddy and Double D try to stick by his side, but they become pawns in the game too. It becomes like a game of role-playing with Sarah as the queen and Jimmy as the sire. I don't know how Jimmy can't be the prince or anything else. I mean, I guess that's just his role. There's a funny montage where Eddy and Ed are acting as horses and Sarah and Jimmy race on them through the house. Fool and tell jokes, but Eddy actually starts having fun and getting into it, which frustrates her. It kind of seems like a lot of fun until obviously Sarah drops an entire cage. Like, when did she get that installed? She becomes more unamused as he starts to juggle all these items, and this is such a funny beat when Ed keeps throwing stuff for Eddy to juggle, and it's just so unrealistic. Until a cactus comes in, and then Eddy gets hurt, and Sarah starts to laugh. But then Sarah takes advantage of them and starts throwing chairs and all their furniture at him. This is when Ed becomes the responsible brother and starts to assert his dominance up at Sarah. It doesn't really go well as Sarah and Jimmy essentially keep trashing the entire house and are able to blame the Eds as the pawn. This episode isn't a lot of plot, but it is so character driven as we kind of find out the relationship between Ed and his sister and how all these small relationships have a big impact on their daily lives, which is so relatable. Eventually, the Eds use the cage to trap Sarah and make Eddy the king. It reminds me of when I was young and it was like me and my guy friends hanging out with like one of my friend's sisters or like a bunch of girls that we didn't necessarily know. You know, like that gender dynamic is just so immature and definitely of this age. And seeing how Ed deals with his sister is really interesting, and how Double D and Eddy, without having a sister themselves, have to just kind of go along with the routine.
There! All clean and fixed! Your mom will never know.
It's just funny. A pinch to grow in Ed. So Eddy's frustrated about not having grown at all in height since age 11, which, of course, Eddy, that's just how it is when you're a boy growing up. He seems really insecure about his height, and even finds that people treat him a certain way because of it. Even Ralph says he's too little to even play basketball with him. Guys, this is so excluding. We're constantly reminded how short Eddy is, and he is too. The Cankers sisters take it one too far by reminding him of his shortness and making him essentially depressed. He wallows through Peach Creek, ignoring Ed and Double D, until he eventually just closes his door and hides in his room. Yeah, this is definitely how I handled emotional issues at this age. Just stepping away from your friends and going to be sad in the other room, that makes a lot of sense. Then in Double D and Ed's very special way, they suggest that they're gonna help him. I consider this one of the scams where they try to have a goal to accomplish, and that's to get Eddy to be taller. I don't know what math Double D is doing, but stretching him against a tree is not going to make him taller. Before they start their next plan, they have him swallow a suitcase to be taller. This is not a plan. Next. Eddy finds himself waiting outside of the garage as Double D and Ed work on a new invention. Double D makes boots that have little springs at the bottom, so he's allowed to walk super tall. And suddenly Eddy is taller than everybody in Peach Creek. He picks on everybody who picked on him first, and it's one of those stereotypical actually following a plot storylines, where Eddy wishes he could be taller, he gets to be taller, and then of course, the Canker sisters come to mock him once again. It's all about the Eds getting put in their place by these girls at this point. I can't tell if they're the enemies, the bullies, or what's going on, because they're definitely separate from all the kids at Peach Creek. The Canker sisters steal the remote that Double D had and start messing with the invention, even comically shooting Eddy's feet up into outer space. I feel so bad for these guys, just nothing they do ever works out until they finally plummet toward Earth. I don't know how the springs went on this much, but it really happened. In the end, Eddy ends up in a baby carriage even smaller than he was in the beginning, and that is just such a good episode. So next, we have Dawn of the Ed. Double D and Eddy seem to be making Ed into a weird alien space-like monster, but really they're just giving him a scuba outfit, bubble wrap, and tie him to a rope. If I saw neighborhood kids doing this, I'd be super concerned. Turns out that they're putting him in this outfit to drop him into the dumpster to go fishing for someone. He gets all these bottles like a homeless person. Eddy and Double D are swearing they're rich. The Eds are scavenging for bottles to trade for jawbreaker money when they spot a poster for Robot Rebel Ranch. Oh my god, I can't imagine what kind of movie this would be. It's a movie that Ed is desperate to see, but apparently it's for adults only. This, of course, bothers the egos of all of the Eds.
Don't sweat it, guys. Where there's a will, there's a scam.
And so instead of getting jawbreakers, they all head on back to Ed's house to watch it. Although things take a turn when they accidentally go through the construction yard and end up in the dump. They even watch a car get smashed right in front of them. They wake up hours later, I assume, or moments later, I'm not sure what the fade out means, and they're on this junk car at the top of the yard. It seems like they can't really get out, or they're scared of something going to happen.
Commoners! No response! There's no response!
Are you saying we're stranded?
They find an old van and claim it as their central command, where Eddy uses his fuzzy dice as nunchucks. Ed and Double D have laser guns and they're full space outlaw mode. Their adventure takes a turn when they stumble upon the Canker sisters spinning Kevin on a tractor wheel. Ed sees robots, frees Kevin, who is not remotely grateful. Ed attempts to launch a rocket, which is an unstable contraption by Double D. Just when things can get more intense, Ed panics, claiming that the robots are coming, and the robots turn out to be Sarah and Jimmy, but the Eds are too lost in their fantasy to notice. Sarah demands that Ed comes home for dinner, and Double D and Eddy, now hungry, decide to leave too, ending their space mission. Now this last space outlaw delivers a final monologue until Double D and Eddy drag him off.
Would he ever get off the robot planet? Would he ever get home? Would he? Oh no! Betrayed by his own comrades!
This is a really fun, imaginative episode. I love it when, like, you're playing pretend and it gets so real that everything around you is essentially happening. I mean, it's weird that they didn't cinematically treat it like it was going on that way, but I do think it's a lot of fun to see how ridiculous the Eds are being when Ed is at the helm of the scam or whatever it is the guys are up to. It's always like wacky fantasy adventure. I don't know. Okay, in Vert-Ed-Go, the Eds are seen using Eddy's piece of gum being used to obtain a quarter from the sewer. Really sanitary, guys. I definitely hope you open a burger business next. After successfully bringing it out of the sewer, a bird comes by and steals it out of Eddy's hands. Eddy's angry and distracted when they see a plane advertising Joe's clubhouse. Eddy thinks it'd be cool if they had their own clubhouse, so they go out of their way to try to build one. Kevin's backyard doesn't work out with him.
Get out of my backyard!
And the landfill is deemed too unsanitary by Double D. The local mailbox is also too small. But then Double D does find a perfectly sized tree.
Where's the door, Eddy?
Hey, Bird Brain, that's a tree? We still need to build the clubhouse.
The only thing is they need wood to make the clubhouse, and after some help from Johnny and Plank, they begin building Club Ed. Ed is afraid of going up, but when he finally does, he keeps falling off. It is eventually finished, and the Eds are off to find members. Eddy's hard sell act does not work well, surprise, surprise, and Kevin is skeptical about stock car and yacht races, and Plank claims he could see through the obvious scam.
Plank thinks you'll spend the membership fees on jawbreakers.
However, nobody joins after seeing the clubhouse since they were laughing instead. The Cankers invade the clubhouse and take it over, and they are not going to give it up that easily. The treehouse actually looks really cool. I've always wanted a treehouse when I was little, but it definitely seemed a lot harder than it looked. Eddy has an idea to throw water balloons at them, but that doesn't pan out. For some reason, Double D is able to avoid all the water balloons being thrown. They try to walk on a clothesline, that also doesn't work. By the end, the Eds fail to get their clubhouse back, and shortly afterwards, Eddy is thrown into the clubhouse by Ed. In the end, Eddy is thrown into a giant thorn bush where Ed and Double D have to help him out, and Eddy has an idea for a brand new scam, so the episode kind of ends there. It feels a little inconclusive, but it's still a funny concept for an episode. Next, we have Read All About Ed. So all the Eds are trying to get their nice, peaceful sleep when Ralph comes through all of their homes with a tractor. This wakes up each and every one of the Eds, Double D, Eddy, and Ed. They are super exhausted because apparently this has been going on a lot. The whole point of this is kind of to show us that Double D actually gets up super early and sets off on his paper route to earn cash for a microscope. Eddy sees the dollar signs in this idea and immediately wants to make it his own, so he convinces him to expand this operation, dreaming of like these huge money-making operation. When Double D returns, he finds out his house is in so many newspapers. Eddy essentially starts the project already. Realizing that these newspapers are way too much for them to deliver on their own, the Eds decide to make an invention. I mean, by the Eds, I mean Double D. Double D is able to make this thing that Double D makes an invention that looks like this giant vacuum pointed outward with a slot to throw in newspapers and get them automatically delivered to a house. He does all of his scientific planning through a Etch-a-Sketch, which I find really funny. Like, you guys don't even have writing, like you can't write on a piece of paper. Instead of delivering all the newspapers, though, Ed gets carried away and starts throwing huge items to see how they can be thrown around. Soon enough, the machine goes haywire, breaks, and starts delivering newspapers everywhere, hurting every last person in town and pretty much littering all over Peach Creek. The newspaper starts to ruin other people's lives, and this scam is already a failure. The boys try to pick up every last newspaper, but then it starts to rain, and then we get to see one more comeuppance for these Eds. This episode was super simple, but it's really funny to watch Eddy try to carry out his super giant ideas, and then it offers a lot of room for comedy when things go wrong, and then, of course, the revenge cycle. It seems like every episode of Ed and Eddy so far is somehow this slice of life, like each story structure seems to be going at a different pace, and I like that about kids' cartoons. I like that there's a little bit more freedom to it. Each episode kind of feels like an animated short film about kids just trying to have fun in a cul-de-sac, and I think that's a really genuine way to go about a show. So in Quick Shot Ed, the Eds are rummaging through Eddy's attic to discover a camera. They accidentally blind each other with the flash for fun. Oh my gosh, that's totally how Flash works.
Let's go take some pictures!
And then they flash the camera on Kevin and he falls off his bike. When Eddy sees a discarded calendar in the trash, he hatches a plan to make a funny calendar using actually embarrassing photos of all the other kids. This is a genius idea. I would definitely buy a calendar if Ed made this, of people in my neighborhood for different months. Like, that would be cool. They all together team up to go on like a photo safari and start taking shots of all the unsuspected kids. They capture Johnny launching plank in the air, Sarah and Jimmy in the middle of playing with dolls being thrown at their heads, and even Naz surprising her through her window, which is kind of borderline illegal. I don't know what the Eds are up to here. Each snapshot causes more chaos, and their antics leave them constantly dodging the angry kids. Of course, Kevin is the most angry and repeatedly tries to stop them at all of their attempts. It's just a montage of the Eds trying to get shots of everybody, and it's not a lot of plot going on here either. They actually take it way too far with Ralph when he's in the middle of sausage making. He falls into his own machine, emerging as a sausage-clad, I don't even know what he is, but he's furious. Ralph's goat, Victor, ends up chasing the Eds, who just barely escape. Suddenly, the rest of the episode is them dealing with the repercussions of everybody trying to stop the pictures. As the Eds try to escape Victor, they finally become at the helm of Kevin's revenge. Kevin comes up on a nice-looking bike, and now suddenly his lights are working even though it's daytime. And he starts to chase down all the Eds. The rest of the episode becomes like the Eds trying to survive and get away from Kevin, but the worst keeps happening to them as they get thrown into a sewer and end up drenched, inevitably finding themselves at the Cankers trailer park. For some reason, they decide to have the gall to take one more picture of the Cankers sisters, and this starts a fight. And of course, the episode ends on all the Cankers sisters pretty much bullying them once again. It just feels like these guys are the target to everybody. Like, even trying to do this one playful thing, it just seems like everybody is ready to team up on them. The Cankers throw them in wigs, get a really embarrassing picture, and then that ends up becoming the calendar. Of course, all the kids of Peach Creek are super excited, and that is the end of the episode. The Eds get their comeuppance. So this is going to be considered a scam gone wrong. No, they lose in this episode. But it's really fun to have half the episode being them getting away with something, and the second half just being them being paid back for it. This one so far is my favorite because it's just a lot of fun to see them in a super positive light, and there's very light, gross-out humor in this one, and that means a lot. Especially since this show has a lot to do with really grotesque, like, imagery. Like, this one is very tame, and I like the innocence of the simple goal of the Eds trying to make a calendar. Next we have an Ed Too Many. The Eds are rummaging around a backyard to find a 4-leaf clover, because Eddy for some reason thinks this is going to translate to money, and they all have a really tough time until Ed actually finds a really pretty blue and yellow flower. Eddy eventually does find the 4-leaf clover, which is exciting, another win for the Eds, and they decide to go make pizza. On their way, Eddy kind of messes with Jimmy, and this poor kid, he erases all the chalk and hopscotch, and for some reason Jimmy's stranded. Double D gives the flower away to Jimmy and Sarah because he just doesn't want it anymore, and Sarah starts crushing on him, leaving Jimmy on his own deserted island.
Sarah!
The boys go back to make pizza for fun. The pizza dough goes crazy, but doesn't really have to do with the plot. And then Sarah actually shows up looking for Double D. And he's like, this is not my house, I can't invite you in. But she follows him, and he does not know what to do. Eddy's mad because he does not want Sarah in his house, and poor Jimmy just wants companionship in the background. Sarah even declares that Double D is her boyfriend, although he's hiding on top of the fridge trying to get away from her. I don't know why she's not getting the hint. Poor Jimmy on his deathbed, making one last souffle without Sarah, and it's so sad that he does not exist without her.
Darn egg whites!
The Eds try to hide from Sarah, but she keeps finding them in the bush, when they run away, and Double D cannot handle it. While Jimmy's walking through the neighborhood, he realizes that Double D is the reason that he does not have Sarah in his life anymore. So he turns rabid, and Johnny watches him go ballistic on his own teddy bear. I would not mess with this kid. These guys have some dark sides to them. Eddie is making sure the coast is clear as the three work on some concoction in the garage, but she once again interrupts another one of Eddie's schemes. The material they're using to make a giant dinosaur leg actually hardens on Double D, so he gets stuck, allowing Sarah to put hearts on it. I would help him, Sarah. Eddie realizes that they've gone too far, so he seeks out Jimmy, who's playing the teeter-totter alone, and ready to fight them. But Eddie promises that he could help get Sarah back. They bring Sarah and Jimmy together, and they reunite. Eddie looks at the four-leaf clover he collected earlier and realizes this couldn't possibly be good luck because of how bad of a day they've had. And Johnny takes it and finds $1. I consider this another loss for the boys. In Ed and Seek, the Eds are rummaging through Eddie's living room looking for spare change when Johnny and Plank appear, searching for something mysterious. We don't really know what's going on, we just think that something's up. Johnny uses Plank as like this detector, and it's really kind of funny. After Johnny shakes a vase, Sarah falls out, revealing that all the kids are playing hide and seek. The boys kind of insert themselves into the game. Ed even goes so far as to find everyone himself, grab them, and bring them to Sarah as if they're winning the game. The Peach Creek kids do not like this and have to have like a group meeting about if the Eds can play with them or not. These poor guys, I feel like nobody includes them. Of course they're going to develop scam-like tendencies to somehow be involved. Everybody eventually allows them to join, but only if they are it. So all the kids run off and hide as Ed, and Eddy chill at the home base. Everybody seemingly teams up against them, trying to get to home base themselves. So the Eds actually take the home base with them as a tree. In order to find the kids, Double D invents a body heat-seeking goggles, which finally give them an edge. So with their new gadget, they could start capturing kids left and right until Jimmy, the last player, makes a break for home base. Yeah, the one that they accidentally left behind. The kids cheer, but in a last-minute effort, Ed tackles Jimmy mercilessly onto the ground and run away. Finally, it's the Ed's turn again, and they come up with the ultimate spot. They take this bush, turn it into like a metal contraptor, hide food enough for like 5 years. They literally create like a fake bunker to win hide and seek. When I was at this age, I actually hid in a dumpster once during hide and seek, and nobody found me for 3 hours, and I'm looking back as that not being an accomplishment anymore. In this spot, they get so excited that they shake up a bunch of sodas and ruin their spot immediately, so they have to re-hide. They're interrupted by the Cankers sisters, hidden themselves. I don't know if they're playing the game or what's going on with them at all. They race to Eddy's house, each hiding into ridiculous hiding spaces, like Eddy in a painting, Double D in a fish tank, and Ed inside the television. Once they're discovered, the Eds make a dash themselves for the tree base, but crash into it so hard it sends the wagon rolling downhill, and they end up buried under a pile of trees, with Ed repeatedly standing up proudly to declare victory. But the tree drops back on them in the end, multiple times, and I'm not sure how gravity works, but I can safely say it's not this. So this episode is called Look Into My Eds, and it's about Eddy basically creating a bus invention, which is a cardboard box with holes in it, run by Ed as a horse steering it along. He's attached to a wagon, which kind of worked, and all the kids get on. So this bus ride to a candy store scam ends in a disaster when the bus falls down a steep hill, leaving Ed behind and the bus crashing at the bottom. Disappointed but distracted by the mail, Ed excitedly unboxes a psychology manual, which includes a hypnotizing wheel. Eager to test it, Double D hypnotizes Ed into a ballerina, but Eddy sees this as like a bigger opportunity. I love how it always starts out with a completely separate scam that leads into a new scam idea. I didn't realize that the show did that, but so far they've done it a lot. This hypnotizing thing really worked, so Eddy uses it on Kevin, who ends up dancing like a monkey and bites Ed's head. Okay, I'm pretty sure I could see where this is going. The Eds go around hypnotizing the neighborhood kids for laughs. They turn Sarah into a frog, then Jimmy into a buff bodybuilder, which is kind of cool. I don't know how Jimmy had the capacity to understand what that was. And everybody becomes like different versions of themselves. Soon bored, they spot Johnny and Plank, but Plank falls under the spell, turning into a mindless zombie. And Johnny runs off in distress, even though Plank is literally already mindless. Ed wants a turn, so he uses the wheel on Ralph, morphing him into everything from a man-eating noodle to a bat, all of which attack Eddy specifically. specifically. And Eddie gets fed up and obviously the hypnoturban and get ready to get serious. He takes this hypno scheme to the next level, creating a grand hypnotism theater. All the kids are hypnotized at once, handing over all their money to Eddie. Eddie, this is actually too far. I don't even know how to describe how bad this scam sounds. He's mind-washing people to unconsensually hand over their finances. I just think it's inappropriate. Just as he's like reveling in success, the Cankers sisters of course appear, and Eddie tries to hypnotize Lee, but only fails because her hair is in her eyes. I thought this design would come in handy. Lee seizes the hypnoturban, turning the tables by hypnotizing the Eds themselves, and the episode ends with Ed, Edd, and Eddy acting like dogs, barking and play fighting in the Cankers sister trailer park over one of Lee's shoes. I consider this a win for the Eds. The turban never really went wrong, they just lost control of it. Okay, so in Tag Yer Ed, the Eds eagerly prepare for a bowl of chunky puffs, only to find that Ed's milk is expired, and it's kind of gross looking. Desperate for milk, they turn to Ralph's cow. After failed attempts at milking the cow from both the nose and rump, Double D points out that milk comes from the udder, which quickly confuses the Eds, and they can survive with dry cereal instead. So while eating the dry, chunky puffs, the kids play nearby. When Double D attempts to throw and embarrassingly flops, Kevin and Ralph mock his weakness, much to Eddie's horror. So Eddie is determined to prove Double D's strength and sets up a gym in the lane. But Double D's attempt to exercise goes terribly wrong, and after failing at every piece of equipment and becoming the neighborhood Joe, Eddie decides to train Double D in private and sets up a wrestling rink in a deserted lot. And this wrestling rink is a really cool idea. I'm like excited about it. Eddie's training for Double D involves a wrestling match with Plank. Even Plank defeats Double D, sending him sprawling. Fed up, Eddie instructs Double D to pin Plank by sitting on him. But Johnny arrives, accusing them of cheating and dragging Plank away. Double D limps off in defeat, only to be challenged by the new 3 wrestlers, the Cankers sisters. Oh my god, of course you guys are coming back. Eddie accepts the challenge, and soon the entire cul-de-sac gathers to watch the erupting Eds face off against the calcified Cankers. First off, there's the Mask's Mumbler, which is Double D, and he is promptly flattened by Marie. And then there's Ed, who is the burr-headed boot, and he hesitates, remembering his mother's rule not to fight girls, and promptly tags in Eddie. Eddie, in his final attempt, is no match for the Cankers, and they effortlessly gang up and defeat him in a chaotic finale. Second episode in a row that the Cankers sisters hurt Eddie. I kind of like their wrestling outfits. I feel like they're actually pretty cool. Ralph gets way too into it, and it's actually kind of funny. The Cankers celebrate their victory by tying the Eds to a human knot. Despite their defeat, the Eds find a silver lining as Ed pulls out the chunky puffs box, allowing them to enjoy a dry breakfast as they remain tangled together. The end. It's good to have a happy ending one. It's amazing what the animators do on this show. Like, literally, Marie turns Eddie into a pancake in a frying pan. Like, I can't believe how unrealistic this show gets. But like, you think it's so normal because it's just grounded in every other aspect.
Okay, Eddie kicks off the day by pranking both Ed and Double D with clever traps, bragging that he's the ultimate prank master. Confident in his skills, Eddie bets he can prank every kid in the cul-de-sac by sunset. Trio sets off. They set out for their first target, but it turns out Ralph, who they were targeting, Ralph's already been pranked and is launched from his shed in a butter churn barrel with a prank master cart attached. He's intrigued, but like he's freaking out, and the Eds realize that someone else is pranking in the neighborhood too. Eddie tries to shake off the prank master idea, but soon they encounter more pranked kids. Johnny's diapered, hanging from a tree.
It seems the prank master has the upper hand, Eddie.
Look, no prank master's gonna prank us, okay?
Jimmy and Sarah are being terrorized. Oh my gosh. And even Kevin has fallen a victim. This poor bully. And the Eds grow increasingly paranoid, fearing that they are next. In full panic mode, they huddle together wearing makeshift helmets and brandishing weapons. They stumble upon a stray jawbreaker thinking it's a trap, but Jimmy eats it happily. Of course, they wanted a jawbreaker so bad. Frustrated, the Eds turn on each other, resulting in a round of playful wedgies that momentarily lift their spirits. They learn the truth that there never was a prank master. The kids faked being pranked just to mess with Eddie. Furious and humiliated, Eddie vows revenge for an ultimate comeback prank.
They think they're so smart. Ha! What saps!
They create this El Mongo stink bomb. I don't know why this is his first thought to do. and we get the first mention of Eddy's brother's recipe. They deploy it, but they have this giant bomb of stink, and the garage door actually can't open for it to come out, so the stink bomb ends up going off right then and there, and a horrendous smell affects everybody, but the Eds, who were the closest, get the worst of it. Oh my gosh, of course it always has to end with them pranked the worst, and they're outsmarted in the end. Next episode is A Boy and His Ed. The Eds start their day with an extortion scheme, charging kids 50 cents to cross a moat guarded by a crocodile Ed. This one's actually really funny. This is very corporate America of them. But when Kevin arrives with a mysterious box, he refuses to pay, and he storms off. They soon discover from Johnny that Kevin's garage is stocked with jawbreakers because of his dad's new job at the jawbreaker factory. Desperate for candy, the Eds dash to Kevin's house to confirm that he has a lot of jawbreakers in his basement. That's when they decide to try to be friends with Kevin because of this. So Double D starts a Kevin friendship course, trying to teach Ed and Eddy everything about their new best friend, quote unquote.
Ed, I seem to be boring you. Why don't you tell us about Kevin?
Eddy suggests they could take the jawbreakers, and Double D tells him that they could go to jail for that, and yet they do millions of other illegal things in their scam journeys, so I don't know why this is crossing a line. The Eds go all in, dressing like Kevin, performing a cheer, spelling his name, and I love this episode, just having them try to gain Kevin's friendship. The most unlikable character in the cul-de-sac is just such a brilliant idea. They even volunteer to clean his chimney. I don't know why that would be helpful to him, a child. Kevin actually agrees to this and lets them. And the chimney stunt even goes wrong when Ed's allergies trigger a massive sneeze that brings down the entire wall of Kevin's house. Oh my god. And of course, they run away.
Kevin got our jawbreakers?
Fed up with this whole friendship approach, Eddy decides it's time to pull off a heist and just steal the jawbreakers. It's the only way. So they try to tunnel into the garage, but they end up going to his bathroom where he's taking a bath. And this is where I love the animation. You know, they get sucked down the drain of the bathtub. And they are jawbreakerless. Like, another loss for these Eds. Then we have It's Way Ed. Eddy's alarm clock rings early, but he's not ready to get up. His friends are already awake, and they drag him out of bed to play. He's groggy and tired, but Eddy decides to scam Johnny 2x4. He searches for Johnny down the lane, preys on him like a businessman, and he and everybody are on stilts. I don't understand why this is a fashion fad. I mean, I could definitely use stilts though. How come we couldn't use stilts in the Eddy getting taller episode? I wonder. Ed quickly masters these stilts and fits in immediately. Eddy and Double D can only hop, but then when they return, the kids have already moved on to whiz-wazzing. And this is actually kind of an ingenious idea. I mean, they get to wear a ball attached to a string on their head. It's kind of like volleyball, but one player? Eddy improvises again, trying to fit in, and pulls Ed back to make their own whiz-wazzers. Midway, Eddy realizes that they are always behind on the trends and decide to get ahead by creating their own new fad. After many failed ideas, Ed accidentally combines discarded trends into a bizarre but promising look. So they parade their fad freaky into the cul-de-sac only to find the kids with balloons, which, by the way, if gravity wasn't a thing, I could have invented this. Their effort fails as their uniforms break down and the kids ignore them still. Frustrated, they head home and they see that the kids are suddenly copying Fad Freaky. Eddy forces his friends to suit back up, but when they get back in it, everybody in the cul-de-sac is back onto another thing. Ooh, this one is a great commentary on pop culture. I definitely feel this. When I was little, in like middle school, it would be all about the next thing, the next show, the next video game, just whatever everybody else is doing. And I swear by the next day, it was always something else. And I love that this episode holds up in that sense. I didn't expect for this to translate so well. The Eds finally give up and it's over. Now we have Laugh Ed Laugh. So Eddy's new scheme involves selling fake ice cream from a truck, which is kind of cool. It looks good for being glue that's painted on a prop. He's confident, but nobody really shows up, so they get annoyed and they actually search for customers. Turns out that the entire cul-de-sac is under quarantine for chickenpox. An episode about quarantine.
Touch him and you'll get it too.
Double D!
Huh?
Behind you!
Too bad none of us know what it's like to quarantine. COVID. Eddy tries to entertain himself as Ed and Double D play games, but he's bored. He just mocks them, driving him away to change a light bulb. Eddy starts to spiral madly, searching for non-sick kids, and he just cannot. He collapses in frustration, and his insanity starts to worry Ed and Double D, who try to catch him for his own good. Poor Eddy, like, you really see his desperate need for approval in this episode, and it's like one thing to see them get constantly rejected or Ed scam them, but you feel a little bit toward him. Eddy is convinced that Ed and Double D are Johnny and blank.
Oops. Johnny! You dropped your face! I'll get you a new one!
Finally, they lure him with his secret kryptonite, a dollar bill, locking him in a makeshift padded cell. Ed, tasked with hiding the key, eats it. Double D tries to calm Eddy, and Ed reveals a fake pile of cash he drew, and Eddy gets excited for a moment, but then he realizes that it's all fake. And it worked, he got back to normal. The kids recover from chickenpox and play outside, but the Eds can't join, as Ed ate the key. Therefore, they are stuck. And we leave them off as they try to shuffle to escape. Okay, so now we have a glass of warm Ed. So it's nighttime, the Double D is jolted awake by strange sounds. He's armed with a cactus named Jim, and he creeps into the kitchen. This is a really funny bit with him. He finds Ed sleepwalking, stuffed with food, munching on everything in sight, and when he takes a bite out of Jim the cactus, Double D is like, oh my god, we have to do something about this. He wakes up Eddy, and together they decide to start to follow Ed's sleeping, eating rampage. They follow Ed through the neighborhood, watching in amazement as he's able to eat, like, all the food and even everybody's fridges one house at a time. He even goes to Naz's room, red flag, he munches on her cucumber eye mask and even eats her midnight snack. Obviously the Eds find this super funny, and where are the parents? The parents better be here for this. But Double D is like, okay, we have to focus on helping Ed.
Have a seat, front row center to the greatest show on earth!
Are you gonna share those?
Things get really intense at Jimmy's house when Ed mistakes Jimmy for food and eats him. Oh my, ew. This has gone way too far, actually. Eventually, they follow Ed back. The next night, Ed's sleepwalking spree continues. He snatches an apple and slips on a pair of underwear hanging on a clothesline and is lifted into the air like a balloon. The show is very creative. Double D decides to use the power of smell from Ed's shoes to lure him back home, only to find Ed too bloated to fit through the window. This is like a obese version of Baby's Day Off, I feel like. That's a movie where a baby gets loose and you're like worried about him the whole time, but he keeps getting into really dangerous scenarios. With Ed stuck in the doorway, Eddy and Double D realize he's finally contained and it should be all good now. But in the morning, they find out that everybody's kitchens are empty and starving. This is when the Eds start Edsmart, selling food that has been stored overnight, but it's really just food that Ed ate and it's being resold back to them. And so gross, Johnny asks for Chunky Puffs and Eddy hands him. Now we have flea-bitten Ed. So the Eds are hard at work starting a new scam. It's Pet Boutique. And this is a really fun one. We haven't really seen pets involved in this show yet. I just realized, do none of the people in the cul-de-sac have pets? Like, we don't see dogs or cats around a lot. I don't know, I guess we'll keep watching, but I don't remember that. So Eddy is supervising, Double D is preparing the supplies. After some confusion about the sign, the boutique is finally open for customers. They approach Rolf first because he is the collection of animals that are in need of a cleanup. So Rolf agrees and he pays for the deluxe treatment. The Eds get to work setting up a pet salon in Eddy's garage. Double D designs a conveyor shower to put all the animals on and polish them. This has to be animal abuse to an extent. Meanwhile, Ed puts lipstick on a cow, which is like counterintuitive, and Double D is freaking out. He says to clean up the rabbits instead, but things go haywire, obviously because Ed is given a responsibility, and we find out he's actually allergic to them. He sneezes uncontrollably, and before long, purple spots start swelling up. Ew, ew, ew. Double D takes the role as a doctor, and Eddy is his nurse, and suddenly they have to help Ed through his allergies.
With all the top degrees, to the living room, stat!
That was good, Eddy.
Whatever.
They try everything like cold cream, talcum powder, and finally an oversized ice pack. They manage to get the swelling down, but Ed is still itchy. so they put him in a containment unit. With the Eds safely tucked away, Double D and Eddy return to the garage, only to find that the bunnies have multiplied beyond control, and they spill out all into the cul-de-sac. They engulf all the kids as the Eds watch in horror, and crazily enough, this is how the episode ends. Double D, Eddy, and Ed are forced to retreat to Eddy's roof while they watch TV throughout this bunny invasion. It doesn't seem like they're interested in solving it, and this is kind of how the episode ends. Next we have Who, What, Where, Ed. So this starts with Eddy in Double D's kitchen, eager to make an omelet. Ed is tasked with grabbing the eggs, but instead uses a popsicle. And Ed actually trips, sending other eggs flying and ruining the breakfast. Eddy's frustrated and suggests they get a chicken in order to avoid the hassle. So they go to Rolf, who agrees to give him the egg if they can bring him some sawdust. So the Eds begin this hilarious never-ending quest of trading different things from different people in the cul-de-sac to get that one egg. There was an episode of Zoe 101 that's like this, where Zoe is not able to say no to people, so she has to keep going down a line of trading people things that she doesn't have for other people's things. It's like an endless to-do list episode, and I kind of love this. So they go to Kevin, who has sawdust, but only agrees if they paint a shed.
How do we paint the shed with no paint? You figure it out. Dork!
They don't have paint, so they go to Jimmy, who agrees to paint as long as they give him clams. Where are they gonna get clams? The Eds can't do it, so they roam around the cul-de-sac until Johnny and Plank exit the sewer with a bucket of them. Ew! But Johnny wants an anchor in return, so the boys disguise themselves as they approach the Canker sisters trying to get this. They are unable to, and this backfires, so they end up fooling Johnny by giving him a heavy rock disguised as an anchor, but Johnny does not see it.
Quick, let's get over to Kevin's. All right.
Eventually, Plank puts his hand in the ring and says he wants a badminton racket. Sarah has one, but she needs a giant teddy bear.
Sarah, we needed to trade for a chicken, please.
I'll trade you for a giant teddy bear.
So the trio finds himself back with Jimmy, who now wants plums, and it's a full circle moment as they return to Rolf, and then luckily Rolf is thrilled by Ed's yo-yo and trades the plums for it, allowing the Eds to finish the entire chain of trades until they finally get their precious sawdust. Finally getting the egg, Double D makes an incubator for it and tries to get the chicken, but ends up cracking the egg, and the episode closes with the Eds left empty-handed, once again victims to Ed's misunderstandings. Okay, now we got Keeping Up with the Eds. So the episode starts with Eddy and Ed waiting outside Double D's house.
All right already!
So this episode starts with Eddy and Ed at Double D's house. As they come in, Double D insists that they remove their shoes because there's a freshly waxed floor, perfect for sock skating, and they excitedly skate into the kitchen. Oh, I used to do this when I was little. It was so fun to just put on socks and like slip around like a nice floor. They find a bunch of sticky notes everywhere, and this introduces that whole quirk of Double D's where he has sticky notes and writes down a bunch of things.
Father wants me to mow the lawn. I detest mowing the lawn.
Eddy notices that Double D's supposed to mow the lawn, and he's inspired. He's like, we should start a lawn mowing company to be profitable. Of course. Ed's head to the backyard where Eddy expects a powerful lawnmower, but instead there's like an old-fashioned push mower. Oh my god, this must be torture. So they're disappointed, but this sparks Ed's imagination, comparing it to like a sci-fi weapon, a wibble whacker. And Ed is responsible for the labor. Ed's enthusiasm goes overboard, leaving the backyard full of bare patches, broken furniture, and damaged stuff. But Eddy is like, okay, we have a new plan. We're gonna get the Montezuma's free-range manure and grow lush grass.
Lift your foot, big guy!
Nice shoe!
As they're throwing manure around everywhere, they even hit Sarah and Jimmy, who are having a nearby tea party. But then the grass actually grows to be like super high, and it's now like a jungle-like grass in the cul-de-sac, which is really interesting. Sarah and Jimmy are like nowhere to be found, and Ed as a big brother wants to find them. Double D suggests they find a more efficient solution, like Ralph's goat, Victor. He can munch through the grass. They go to Rolf's where he has them sign a contract called Passing of the Goat, which is funny.
The passing of the goat continues to be a stable export of my country.
And suddenly Victor eats through all the grass, but Sarah is nowhere to be found, so everybody assumes that she was eaten.
Sarah!
After a brief misunderstanding, Sarah is safe, but she's still angry. Once all the grass is cut, Eddy is ready to get paid, but Double D reminds Eddy that the signed contract states that Victor has to go back to Rolf. This poor overfed goat is become like this giant bloated thing. What is this thing in Ed, Edd and Eddy where every time somebody eats so much, they like full Violet Beauregard from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? They lose control of Victor, who eventually crashes into a muddy area. Oh my gosh, and it ends with the goat nibbling at their heads as they attempt to escape the situation. Okay, in Button Your Ed, Double D's peaceful breakfast is interrupted when his grapefruit squirts juice in his face. Ed tears his screen door. So a bug is causing the Eds a bunch of trouble, and so they're trying to catch it, resulting in the fly getting lodged into Eddy's throat. Oh my god, gross.
My ears are broken!
So he's like unable to speak now. Double D ends up hanging a bell around Eddy's neck for communication, but their attempts to interpret what he's saying lead to a series of like really funny misunderstandings. I mean, if I were the Eds, it would be easy. Like, I would just assume Eddy is trying to make money or do a scam. I don't know why you guys need him to talk. He says the same stuff all the time. Ralph assumes Eddy's hungry when he's communicating and invites everybody over for breakfast, serving like really weird dishes. Eddy rings his bell to protest, but Rolf treats him like a baby and feeds him anyway. It's all this gross food, and I don't want that. Rolf insists that Eddy needs exercise, subjecting him to synchronized swimming and the unicycle of doom. But Eddy cannot reject this because of his communication. Suddenly, Eddy is battered and retreating to his room until Ralph brings a doorless refrigerator to cool Eddy's room. It turns into an icy wasteland before Eddy tries to escape. This sparks a chase between everyone, and Rolf misinterprets Eddy's tantrum as a need to confront his fears. So Rolf thinks he's helping Eddy, but locks him in a pen with an aggressive rooster who proves to be like more menacing and actually fighting him.
Go, Eddy!
Uh-huh.
You almost fell out, Eddy. There you go.
Eddy tries to climb a tree to escape, but he realizes he could speak again. But it doesn't matter because they can't hear him. Ed and Double D assume they're imagining things as they relax nearby, and it doesn't work. Then we got Avast Ye Eds. Eddy's latest scheme is a tire swing, so it backfires when Ed pushes too hard and Double D gets sent into a creek. Eddy quickly pivots, turning it into a creek cruise. Johnny and Jimmy buy tickets, and the Eds entertain them on a makeshift raft with Ed as the motor.
Looks safe to me.
This cruise is interrupted when the Cankers sisters spot the Eds, and they are dressed as pirates, which is so convenient for this, and they start to chase them. But the Cankers' weed-eater power ship quickly overtakes them. Johnny heroically leaps to sabotage the Cankers' sail, which is funny because he's supposed to just be on this cruise, but he doesn't seem to mind, and Eddy is actually kind of jealous about it. The Eds try to escape, but May punctures their raft with a slingshot, leaving them stranded.
Oh my!
No ride.
The Cankers board the raft, forcing Johnny and Jimmy to walk the plank before turning their attention to the Ed. I love that we take a sea-like approach to this. Like, this isn't a normal episode that could happen on Ed, Edd and Eddy, but because they incorporated the creek and the small town imagination, it works really well. Back on the shore, Ralph waits for his turn, but there's a deflated raft, and the Eds are covered in lipstick and exhausted as they crawl out of the creek, and there's just no success. They are once again attacked by the Cankers. In Ed's Adjurate, Eddy's latest scam, Edland, is an amusement park featuring a petting zoo and a carousel ride. Eddy tests the ride, but he finds it like uncomfortable and replaces the seat with an armchair, ignoring Double D's warnings about balance, which it really doesn't look safe. When Ed gives Eddy a push, the chair dispatches and launches him into Kevin's window, breaking it.
Hi, Kevin!
He doesn't want to take responsibilities, so Eddy concocts a story about a fictional gang called the Mucky Boys. Although skeptical, Kevin actually is convinced that this was a gang that did it. Dude, Kevin, you have to know. This isn't as bad as breaking into their bathtub. I don't know why they need to find a reason to lie here. The lie spreads as Sarah and Jimmy dress as explorers and start to hunt the Mucky Boys. With Double D worrying about the consequences, Eddy decides to play along with the story and builds on the myth. So Eddy has Ed create fake footprints leading to the sewer drain, to direct the kids there. They're initially fooled, but Sarah grows suspicious and she notices that there's fresh paint on these cave walls. To intensify the prank, the Eds cover themselves in mud and wait for the kids outside the sewer, posing as the Mucky Boys. They scare everybody but Sarah, who sees through it, turns a hose on them, and it reveals the Eds. Kevin is furious, and the other kids realize they've been tricked. As punishment, the Eds are encased in a giant block of cement, which sounds like a fair punishment, I guess? Why doesn't the Supreme Court do that as a form of punishment? Johnny brings them a cake with a hidden hammer to help them escape, but Ed accidentally eats the hammer and the cake, and that's how the episode ends. Next, we have Oath to an Ed. So this one is really fun because it's another Ralph episode, and they're dressed as the Urban Rangers, and that is like the beginning of this long-running joke that there's a Boy Scout troop that's led by Ralph, and it's really fun. So Double D is in a weird outfit that they purchased, and Eddie decides that they should just wash the clothes to break him in. But when they try to dump him in the creek, they encounter Ralph, Johnny, and Jimmy, who are dressed up as the Urban Rangers. They have uniforms, badges, and Eddie's pretty much intrigued, and he's like, oh, how can I join?
Would you and your fellow Ed boys like to wear our uniform? Come, I invite you to the privilege to earn 1 badge, and you too will become Urban Rangers.
But I like being Ed.
The Eds receive red handkerchiefs, designating them as wee roaches, which is like recruits, and they're assigned various tasks to earn badges. Like the first one is them having to relax on a hammock without interruption, but Ed's excitement to jump on the hammock rips it, causing them to fail the task.
Hey, we're in the hammock, just like those guys. What?
The next one is trimming hedges, which starts well until Ed uproots a bush, ruining their chances again. Then we get another task, guiding an old lady, which is Naz, across the street, and that also ends in failure when Ed accidentally takes Naz's place. Are we now deciding that Ed ruins things? Because this is a consistent through every episode. Why are they still appointing him for things? The final 2 tasks is microwaving a frozen burrito on a roll of toilet paper, ew, and that goes wrong because the burrito explodes and the toilet paper dispenser falls off. After Eddie begs for another chance, Rolf agrees to a final test, delivering a pie to Sarah and being polite. Despite Eddie's best attempts, Sarah's taunting gets the better of him and he snaps, failing the task.
Does baby want a bottle?
Shut up, Sarah!
Eddie!
In the end, Ralph strips them of their handkerchiefs and sentences them to the Walk of Shame. He slathers them in lard, and the Eds slip down the sidewalk while the Urban Rangers salute them. To Eddie's horror, even Plank has earned a badge of Ranger. Can I just say I didn't remember this much content happening in simply the first season of Ed, Edd, and Eddy? I mean, there's 6 full seasons. This first season literally has the Urban Rangers, the Cankers sisters. So many pranks and scams happen in just these 26 segments. And it's not even just these 26 segments. Some of these episodes are broken up into 3 or 4 little segments that have to do with a overall plot. I mean, that still counts as a single episode, but I swear they're covering so much. When I first took on this project, I thought it would be simple and easy, but this took me like months to do. But I do look back on this show super fondly. Like, usually the first season of shows can be a little rough and it could take a while to find the rhythm. But it seems like it didn't even take an episode or 2 before they really delved into the scams. And I feel like we have a good sense of all the characters for the entire rest of the series. Like, if the show ended after this, I think it still would have been a phenomenal show. But how do you guys feel? Do you remember this many episodes being just in the first season? Don't forget to like and subscribe to Johnny 2000 and have a great day.